Rothway is a place where you can come and get to know your fellow Group 1 employees, both for the work they do, but also as a person. With that said, I hope you enjoyed this episode where we sit down and have a talk with John Rogge. Hey everyone, welcome back to Real and Remote at Rothway. I'm your host, Eugene, and today I have Courtney DeGeorge joining me as a guest co-host. And I hope y'all are ready for another great episode. Today we're joined by John Rogge. Thanks, John, for coming on with us. How you feeling?
I'm doing good.
All right, good to hear. So I'm going to let Courtney go ahead and just take it off from here, hitting us with the questions.
How did you go ahead and get started with Group 1, and how long have you been with the company?
Okay, I started in 2010, and I was living in Oklahoma City, and I had approached Group 1 about a training position because I'd held training positions with other dealer groups. And that all got put on hold 08, 09 due to the financial situation. And in 2010, they called me and said, not only can we hire a trainer, we have to for this market. So I was hired to train salespeople in all the Oklahoma dealerships, the Kansas dealerships, and part of Southern California.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Strange territory.
You've been with the company a long time. So what is your most memorable sales pitch you've ever heard?
There's a couple. The first thing I would say, I exposed myself, and I got in the car business in 1980. In 1982, I figured out that selling was a learned skill. So I relied on people like, there were automotive trainers like Jackie B. Cooper and Clint McGee, but there was also Zig Ziglar, and there was Brian Tracy, and a lot of guys with a lot of great information. So, but in that process, I heard, don't know that it's a sales pitch. I'm not sure if I know what a pitch is for sure. But there was a training guy named Tom Hopkins who was a real estate expert. But his favorite close, and one I've used before, was the one where when somebody is having a hard time making a decision, his favorite expression was to say, I know exactly what you're thinking is it's a big decision and you want to make sure you give it all the thought that's necessary. He said, I do things exactly the same way. But the other day I reflected briefly as I looked around and discovered that everything that I have in my life that's important to me, and that includes my wife and my children, the car, the home that we live in, I got by saying yes, not no.
Isn't that something?
And so that one stuck with me forever. I probably heard that in 1983.
Oh, wow.
And I've taught it ever since.
That's a great one.
Yeah.
Okay.
That one, and then but there's one other one that took place in 1992 in Kansas City, Kansas. On the showroom floor at Laird Noller Ford, a guy named Hal Stevens, who's probably the best pure salesman I ever worked with, was showing a gentleman a brand new Mustang GT, a dark blue one, and the customer discovered that it had some paint work on it. It was a brand new car, but it had been painted on, and it had because it arrived at the dealership with transportation damage. And so we had to fix it. So we went to our body shop, and it got painted. But apparently the customer had a sharp eye, and he noticed. Now, we would have to disclose it anyway, but he did notice it, and he said, I don't think I want to buy that car because it's brand new, but it's been painted on, which kind of made sense. Hal Stevens never missed a beat, and he said, I understand what you're saying, but let me ask you an important question. Would you rather drive a car home today that had been painted by a machine or by a man whose hand you could shake right this minute? Let me go back and introduce you to the gentleman that painted this car.
Right.
That is good. That's a good pitch.
I never heard, he didn't miss a beat.
Man, well, those are some memorable sales pitches for sure.
All right. So, John, we learned about one of your most memorable sales pitches, and that was actually a great story. I'm all about learning about you just personally. So I'd love to hear something fun or interesting about you that's a good story or even just a good moment or hobby, something you have that's not work-related.
Oh, there's been a lot of stuff because I've covered a lot of ground. I've been in the car business for 40 years, but I did a lot of other things before that, too.
Oh, really?
Worked pipeline construction, played a little basketball here and there.
Oh.
I also...
What position?
That was
Pardon?
my question.
What position did you play?
Well, in a small town where I grew up, I was 6'5". That'll put you in the post. That makes you the 5. And the problem I ran into in college at 6'5", you were no longer the biggest guy on the court.
Not
So I had to
as tall
learn
as you
some
were.
ball skills. And it took me a while to catch up. But I got there. And in relation to basketball, there's something that most people don't know is they might know, if you know basketball at all, you might know who Gregg Popovich is, the coach of the San Antonio Spurs. I played against Popovich.
Really?
Yeah, in Colorado Springs in the early 70s. He
That's
went to
crazy.
he went to the Air Force Academy, and graduated. And when he did, he became an assistant. But he played some City League ball, and I was playing City League ball because I was coaching high school basketball in Colorado Springs at the time. So yeah, I played against Popovich, but he was a good ball player. But he started for Air Force for 4 years.
I didn't know that he was in the Air Force, but I was not expecting you to throw out Gregg Pop right now.
Well,
so that's amazing.
Let's see, and the head football coach at the high school in the Air Force Academy District was a guy named Bill Parcells.
Bill. So you know Bill and Greg. That's
Listen.
amazing.
Yeah, so there's.
John is the man with the master
Okay,
plan.
no, wait, yeah, here's
Seems
another
like
one.
it.
Are you a Kansas City Chiefs fan?
I'm aware of the team. I'm a Green Bay Packers fan. But
Okay, but if you ever hear the Chiefs and hear the radio broadcast, and you'll hear it on some highlight films, the voice is the same because it's distinctive, but the announcer for the Chiefs, when they score, he always says the same thing. It's touchdown Kansas City. You may have heard that.
more
That's
likely.
Mitch Holthus. Mitch Holthus was my JV quarterback in Smith Center, Kansas in about 1972.
So you know everybody, basically. That's what you're telling us. You know everybody.
If you stick around long enough, yeah.
Got to start hanging out with you.
Exactly. Yeah. I need some friends like you, John. No, Bill Parcells, football, basketball. Before you know it, throw out a tennis player. Some.
Right.
You know, McEnroe.
No, but I did see Bjorn Borg play when he was 16 years old.
You got it. You have all the stories. Okay. Let's switch back over a little bit to the sales side. If you could have any superpower in sales, what would it be and why?
It would be, I think, to be able to see the future. Because if your goal is to help people make a good decision, find the right car and something that'll keep them happy, wouldn't it be handy to be able to tell them what to expect? Whether it's to buy a hybrid car or an all-electric or a gas or two-door or four-door or whatever. You could be more effective in sales if you could tell what was coming for the customer, if they could trust you to do that. I think that'd be awesome.
I agree with you on that. Like definitely, like sometimes knowing the technology that'll kind of, this car already has some of the things that's future-proof. That definitely could be good from a sales standpoint.
If the idea in sales is to provide customer service, you could be even better at it if you knew what was going to happen.
Absolutely.
That's why you're my hero. All right.
Okay, let's go on to the next question. What is your go-to or motivational quote that you live by?
Boy, it's one I strive to live by. Don't always do as well. I didn't do as well with it today, and here's why. It's actually Philippians, chapter 4, verses 6 and 7. It'll paraphrase a little, but it basically says, don't worry about anything. And I like this particular passage because it's absolutes. It says, don't worry about anything and pray about everything.
Couldn't agree more.
Now,
Profound.
I didn't quite get past the anxiety in preparing for this conversation, but
No need to be
But anyway,
anxious.
I valued that for a long, long time.
I like that one.
Absolutely profound. And if you could go back to a time and give yourself one piece of advice, what would it be?
Kind of lines up with your superpower already a little bit.
Right.
Go back one piece. Don't forget to have fun.
Wow.
That's a good one. That's a good one.
Got to throw fun in there.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Enjoying life is always important. Okay.
That's when things go bad. That's a line that a friend of mine used to use. He just said, "You just remember, you got to expect a little fun every day."
Absolutely.
Okay. Definitely like that one. Okay. So what's one of the biggest changes you've noticed from the sales side since you joined Group 1 up until today?
It's the customer's access to information.
That is
They
very
know
true.
so much more. If I go back all the way to 40 some odd years ago when I started, it seemed like the job of the car business was to withhold information from the customer. They couldn't find out what anything cost. They didn't know what a good deal was. And now they have access to all that information.
Full transparency.
Yeah, I think it's awesome.
Yeah,
It is so much easier to be able to share information with the customer. It helps our agents so much because we see it now with Acceleride and with Roadster. The customer has a question, we can answer it.
Right.
And the customers expect that, and that it's access to information. And 15 years ago, I think the thought was that's probably going to ruin us. It probably has had something to do with the profit per unit, but it's made the business a lot more pleasurable.
And I can imagine like the time like you have to spend with a customer may go down because the customer can oftentimes come in already having a great idea of exactly what they want. Like I know myself, even going to buy a vehicle, you've done enough research. Oh, I want to get this. So you don't have to so much sell them on. You just
Right.
have to guide them through the process sometimes.
And they can get pricing information and the accessories and everything. So that's changed a lot.
Okay, that's a good one. What was one of the hardest parts of your job over the years, and how did you overcome it?
Having held lots of different positions in dealerships, because I started out selling cars a long time ago, but I did finance, I did sales manager, I've been a general manager, I've been the director here at the Customer Development Center. And of all of that, the hardest part for me psychologically is being the boss. I'm not driven to be the boss. And that's important if you're going to be the boss. Group one hires people to be general managers at dealerships who have enough entrepreneurial spirit that you really want guys that can take things and make them happen like they owned it. And I've never had a burning desire to be that person. So I've had to teach myself how to be a better boss, and how to make sure people clear on expectations and what you need to get done. So that's not natural for me. I just had to work at it.
I feel like that's actually one of, like, to me personally, like a great thing. Someone who isn't looking for leadership, and like leadership comes upon you that way. It's not what you wanted, but you're a little bit more, you feel responsible to it a bit more. Mm-hmm. So I feel like that's actually sometimes, to me, a good thing. Like, though you may not want to be the leader, you have the personality and desires and the things you want to do can actually push forward, not just for yourself. You want everyone around you to be better. So actually makes it a harder thing for you, but it's a great thing for those who are under you to actually want to follow you.
Absolutely. And you do a great job of being a boss, by the way. What stands out as your biggest accomplishment?
I can't document it.
Okay.
But it revolves around the fact that I've spent over half of the 43 years training people and helping develop people. And when I see people that I've known in the business for that long that have gone on and done well and done more, I feel like I had some responsibility for getting them started or keeping them in or training them. So I feel like once I learned that selling cars was a teachable skill, and I worked hard enough at learning how to be a trainer, then I think the effect is I've been able to successfully train some people who've succeeded in the car business. So it's more general than specific, but it's the fact that I really can feel like I have helped some people get where they wanted to go.
See, I feel like that's a great thing that kind of leads into that leadership thing. Like, 'cause you weren't looking for yourself. Your greatest accomplishment is helping others. It's a beautiful thing.
Absolutely, and that's an amazing accomplishment. So we are an automotive company. So before we go, I have to ask, what is your dream vehicle? Like, what car would make you the happiest man on earth? Let's hear it.
Okay, but I have to give you a little history on that.
Okay.
So I look back, the first 20 years I was in the business, and even fairly recently, I mean, I was always in a position where I was provided a car. In 1980, when I started in the car business, everybody got a demo. Every salesperson was driving a brand new car. So I always had a new car to drive. But of all those free demos I've had, a 1986 Saab Turbo SPG is one of my favorite cars of all time. And it was just an awesome car for its time. If I went back to drive it now, I'd be very disappointed, I'm sure, in the technology and all that. But it was a performance car that Saab built, and it was a great car. It was an 86, so that's one of the favorite cars I had.
You said the SPG?
SPG.
Yeah.
And it has to be an 86.
86?
That's a new one for me.
Because the 86 was gray with gray interior. It was monochromatic. The first 2 years they made the car, they were all one color. The 85s were black with tan. 86s were gray with gray, and then after that they painted them other colors. But the 86 was the right car. So that's one of the favorite cars I've ever had. If I look at of the cars I've owned, a 5 Series BMW ranks up there. I've had one of those, and it's just a fabulous car. I had one of those. But if I probably dropped everything and said I could get anything right now,
anything vehicle,
it would probably be a Mercedes G-Wagon.
G-Wagon?
Yep.
Listen, we're on the same page. I love me a G-Wagon.
It's hard to not just have one of those catch your eye every time they go down the street.
They're beautiful.
Definitely does something.
That's probably where I'd be.
Okay.
What color?
I'm not sure. I did not like the matte colors when they first came out, but the G-Wagon's kind of winning me over on the matte color. Although I did see a bright red one. They don't make very many of those.
Maybe a matte red.
It could be.
I like the matte green color on it. Very nice look on the G-Wagons. Okay. Definitely. So one last thing want to ask, what's next for you at Group 1?
You know what? I'm not even sure.
Okay.
I was in the midst of discussing possibly retiring at this point, and when I did, and that led to some conversation with some other people, and it turned out there is some training type work that the corporate office sees needs to be done at the dealership level, and so I'm going to participate in that. I don't have an exact job description yet.
Okay.
So, but it'll be back to doing. If I'm going to keep working, I'm going to go back to doing what I like best, which is training and developing people. So, as far as I know, that's what I get to do next. I'll know a whole lot more next week.
Okay, that sounds pretty good. Did you have any other questions?
Questions, John? You are such a delight. You're going to do amazing things with Group 1. And I'm so sad to see you leave the CDC, but is there anything else that you would like to say before you leave?
No, just, just if I would leave any word with the CDC it's don't lose sight of the customer. We get bogged down in procedures, and we get bogged down in things, and we forget if we pay attention to the customer and take care of the customer, generally everything works out the way it should.
Absolutely.
So don't forget the customer, I guess.
I like that.
Okay.
All right, John, I think that wraps it up for us. This has been a great conversation. So I want to thank you for coming on with us. Thank you, Courtney, for being a guest co-host for today. Been amazing with you as well. And so this has been a great conversation. I want to thank everybody for listening and watching. And we just look forward to seeing whoever we have on our next episode. Until then, my name is Eugene. This has been Real and Remote at Rothway. Thank you, John. Thank you, Courtney. See y'all next episode.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Thanks.